No Credits Rolled.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of No Credits Rolled. My name is Sam Whalen. And guess what, folks? We're doing an early morning recording on my end. So, just you, me, and this delicious cup of coffee out here in Radio Land. Whenever time you're listening, I always appreciate it if you're listening at all. Every little bit helps. And like I wanted to mention here as well, we are also on TikTok and YouTube at No Credits Rolled if you want to check us out. But anyway, on today's show, we're going to cover some news stories real quick. And then I was going to originally do kind of a gaming grab bag thing. I've been playing a lot of different things, and I wanted to kind of just do a quick hit list. But instead, I ended up writing like 2.5 pages of notes about Marvel Rivals. That's right, folks. I was able to get in on the closed beta that's currently running at the time of recording. And turns out I have a lot to say about this game, and I've been really anticipating it. So I think I'm just going to cover that for the review portion of today's show. So yeah, let's get right into the news to kick things off. So, Respawn announces changes to Apex Legends Battle Pass after a community outcry. I am a big Apex fan, so I was kind of following this story as it went. Not so much lately, and I'll get into that with this story, but this is from Stella Chung over at IGN. She said, quote, "The initial Battle Pass changes meant that instead of a single season Battle Pass, there would be 2 Battle Passes for each split of the season, and neither would be able to be purchased with the premium in-game currency, Apex coins. As a result, players could no longer spend Apex coins from the previous Battle Pass on the next season. EA did clarify that players could unlock the first half of Season 22's premium Battle Pass rewards by completing a set of challenges in the first 2 weeks of launch, but no further details were explained at the time." So basically, how it would work before was that if you bought the Apex Battle Pass initially, and there's a lot of terminology here that I'm probably going to mix up because it's a lot of similar sounding words, you will be able to earn the next Battle Pass simply by completing the prior one because you would get the in-game currency and you would have enough to get it. So you didn't have to drop $10 every season to re-up your Battle Pass. You could just, it was sort of self-renewing. And EA and Respawn, I'm not sure who pushed for this. If I had to guess, it was probably EA. They were like, no, we're going to do away with that. We're going to make it so you have to spend money no matter what. And big shocker, people were not thrilled about that. Myself included. Apex is already sort of on the back burner for my friends and I, and this was just another sort of nail in the coffin for them. But luckily, community outcry worked. I just want to give my perspective on this, just because my friends and I have been on Apex since day one. We're big fans, despite the game's current state for us. Let's be honest, everybody, okay? The Apex Battle Pass has always been bad, right? It's 80% garbage, and I think that's being generous. The skins are almost always bad looking. Like, I don't know, I don't want to discredit the artists here, but whatever they're coming up with, the skins do not look good. And maybe it's the characters, maybe they just don't lend themselves to cool skins, but I don't think that's true because there are a handful of skins in the game that are pretty impressive. And of course, the ones you can spend real money on are a little bit better. But the Apex Battle Pass has always been mostly for currency. Sometimes you get the level 100 weapon skin, and it's a cool-looking skin. They're usually reactive, so they have a cool effect built into them. But it's happened to me a bunch of times where it's a weapon I just don't use. So I'm not even seeing it anyway. So it's mostly trash. The only upside, like I said, was for the currency. You're earning the coins to afford the next Battle Pass, and you don't have to spend the $10 every season. And you're getting the other currencies as well. There's crafting materials. There's the currency to get heroes. There's so many currencies, right? You play one of these free-to-play games, there's going to be like 15 different kinds of currencies. And that was really what I would get the Battle Pass for. And I also like checking off boxes. I like completing challenges. It scratches a primordial itch in my brain. And also not having to spend the money and getting that reward, which, if you think about it, is it really a reward? You're working to get rewarded to do more work. I don't know. But my point here is that the Battle Pass was really never good. And to then just straight up monetize the thing that is already not great, I'm not surprised this didn't go over well with the community. But Apex has been, like I said, pretty dead to me and my friends lately. We do maybe a couple matches every now and then, but, within the first 3 or 4 matches, we're switching to something else. And then there's a couple reasons for that. There continues to be changes to this game that make us not want to play. They removed duos and added quads. I think that's what it was. They removed one of the core modes, and I'm pretty sure it was duos. Typically, when when I'm online, it's me and two other friends. So removing duos, or one other friend, right? So there's either two of us total or three of us total. And removing duos, like, I don't understand why you would do this, right? Other battle royales have done this in the past. Warzone did it. I think Fortnite did it at one point. I don't know if there's a technical reason for this, right? Of like limiting modes, or you're worried about splitting your player base. That's always what I've tried to play devil's advocate with, but I don't really see why they can't all be left in. I don't understand why you wouldn't allow as many options as possible for your player base to do. So when, say Joe and I hop in for duos and there is no duos and we have to play trios, well, here's our options. We're either going to have to fill, which means we have a random teammate, which pretty much never works. They don't know how to play the game, or they run off and do their own thing because they're queuing solo, or we get someone who is playing with us, but like they're totally brain dead, right? And well, actually, that's not true. The other option is that we don't fill, and it's just Joe and I. So every fight is a 2v3, and there's no way we're going to win that, especially in a game like Apex where there's sort of the rotation and healing and people cycling and having a whole player down. There's no way you're going to be able to overcome that unless you're like a pro gamer, and we're not quite at that level. So that was a big change. That was the latest big change that made us like not want to play the game. And then of course there's the map rotation, which I always complain about. Like two of the maps we just don't enjoy playing on. There's Stormpoint and there's Broken Moon. And those maps, they're not good. They're not fun to play on. They're too big, especially Stormpoint. Stormpoint is way worse than Broken Moon. We can sometimes stomach Broken Moon, but we're just not fans of the map design. And it seems like these two maps come up all the time, right? There's three other maps that we could hypothetically be getting, and it seems like it's always Stormpoint and Broken Moon. I mean, we'll play ranked just to get a different map, but it seems like, and because I just think the gaming gods are not in our favor with this game, it'll be double Broken Moon or double Stormpoint in each mode. So you can't get away from the map either. And it's like, I don't know, maybe this is a very niche issue for my friends and I, but, I've seen some online discourse about Apex, and it seems like the general community is kind of turning against it. People that aren't at the pro level. And even at the pro level, I've seen some pro players come out and say that, this game is just not hitting anymore. And then, yeah, there's always an issue where you spend more time in the menu than you do in the match, because the second you drop, the other bad guys get guns and you're instantly dead and you got to do it all over again. And eventually that gets frustrating. And by eventually, I mean pretty quickly. Within 3 or 4 matches, we're like, okay, well, we gave it a shot and we're moving on. And, it's like they're removing reasons for us to play the game in a game that we already are struggling to get ourselves to play. And this Battle Pass change, I mean, I know they reversed it, but at the time that Battle Pass change was just another thing of like, okay, well, why would we even bother playing this game now if we're not even going to be able to earn the Battle Pass by playing it, if we just have to spend money? It just seemed like such a cash grab. So there was another quote here from Stella Chung. She says, quote, "There are now 2 new Battle Pass tiers called Ultimate and Ultimate Plus." Now, you're going to want to get a pen and paper. Don't worry, there's a handy-dandy chart that goes along with this to explain it all. But anyway, back to Stella. She says, "Ultimate is nearly the same as the Premium, but costs $9.99 USD and cannot be purchased with Apex coins. It gives players all the Premium rewards and an additional instant unlock of 8 Apex packs." We call them Apex, which they should too. And 1,200 crafting materials. So I'm not even joking. You can go and look up. There is a chart that EA put out to go with this new Battle Pass change that is explaining what each tier gets. And it's like, if you need to put out a chart to explain your monetization, hey, maybe your game is overly monetized, right? Maybe there are too many ways to try to grab players and get them to spend money. And I'm noticing this in a lot of other free-to-play games too. And I was going to talk about Multiverses today in that gaming grab bag section, but I ended up cutting it. But Multiverses is another example where you go to the shop in that game, and it's almost like impossible to read. There's so many different kinds of currency. There's so many different ways they're trying to get you to spend money. You don't even know what you can earn for free by playing the video game versus what you need to spend money on. And spoiler alert, most of the time you need to spend money for it anyway. And I'm someone that has no problem swiping the card for these things. It is, if it's something that I like I just did it with Multiverses. I bought the Battle Pass because I wanted Samurai Jack, because I love Samurai Jack. And it's like, okay, that's pretty simple, right? There's Gleamium in that game, which is, I think, their version of V-Bucks for Fortnite. But there's also 2 other kinds of premium currency that you can get. And it's like, and Fortnite does it too. Now Fortnite has separate battle passes for like events that are going on, right? So there's a what is the current one? There's a Pirates of the Caribbean. So there's a Pirates of the Caribbean free battle pass just for this event, but then you can also get a upgraded version of it that has different things. And it's like, I don't know, at a certain point, and maybe I'm just old man yelling at cloud, I think it's just so overly monetized and so obviously a cash grab that it's becoming kind of egregious, honestly. I yearn for the days of when it was just one battle pass and, you know, you could maybe drop money, real US dollars, so it was easy to understand, on things if you wanted to, right, on certain bundles or certain skins that just cost money or just cost whatever the premium currency is, and that was it. I think it's becoming much too complicated in a lot of these games, and I think part of the backlash against this respawn change, bringing it back to the story we're talking about, I think part of it is people are getting sick of it across the board, and I think that is why there was so much outcry for this, because it is really, at the end of the day, really just a cash grab. And of course, Respawn did reverse this, but they are still sticking with a new system for their battle pass. So I don't know. You know, my friends and I are going to keep giving Apex a shot every once in a while, probably. You know, that game still has a hook in us in terms of the gameplay. I love the Respawn feel, right? I would give anything for Titanfall 3, but they're probably never going to do that. They're going to keep running with Apex because it makes them way more money than Titanfall 3 ever would. And, you know, at the end of the day, you speak with the almighty dollar, right? And as someone who spends way too much money on these games, maybe I have no room to talk. But at the end of the day, if you want to see things monetized less, spend less money. It's as simple as that. But anyway, one last thing here for this story. IGN, as part of that Stella Chung article, she interviewed Stephen Ferreira. Sorry, I'm Ferreira. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But they're the Apex Legends game director. It's a very good interview. And of course, I always recommend you go check out Real Journalist. I'm not a real journalist. I just quote them. So yeah, go check out Stella Chung's interview with the Apex Legends game director if you want to know more. It's a great interview. But that is story number one. Story number two here is sort of a follow-up to a story we covered on the podcast before. The massive Fallout 4 mod, Fallout London, is now available. And I just wanted to hit on this because I had covered this before. For those that don't know, this was a big old giant mod for Fallout 4 that got delayed after Bethesda's surprise announcement of the next-gen updates for their nuclear RPG. And at the time when I covered the story, you know, it was kind of really talking about how this mod team got kind of blindsided and they got all kinds of delays and they had to shift things around. And I just wanted to, you know, give them kudos for finally getting this thing out. If you are interested in getting it, it's easier to install through Good Old Games or GOG instead of going through Steam. There's a way to do it through Steam too, but it's still a little finicky with the different versions of Fallout 4. This is a quote from Wesley and Poole over at IGN. Fallout London is perhaps the most high-profile mod ever created and lets players engage with everything from stuffy parliamentary aristocrats to a resurrection of the Knights of the Round Table to an uncompromising cult of revolutionaries in what amounts to an expansion-sized add-on. So all that sounds pretty cool. This next part was what really surprised me. It has even secured the likes of Baldur's Gate 3's Neil Newbon for its voice cast, and also former UK Speaker of the House John Bercow in the game too. I don't know who John Bercow is, but Neil Newbon is great. I can't believe that. I didn't realize a mod team like this could get that kind of talent. And you know, Neil's great. Obviously, he's Astarion in Baldur's Gate 3. My dad met him recently, so that's pretty cool. He said he was a very nice guy, and I was glad to hear that. You know, when you meet celebrities like that, you want them to be nice, you want them to be personable, and they're not always like that. But he said Neil was a great dude, and you know, he really, had a good discussion with my sister. Was very cool with her. So you know, it's nice to hear those things, right? And it's even cooler to hear that this mod team was able to get that kind of talent. I mean, Neil won Best Voice Actor at the Game Awards last year. And obviously, you know, with that comes probably a pretty penny they had to get him. But obviously, he's going to bring that A-list caliber talent to this mod and make it even more legit. So yeah, that was just a quick little hit on this for that Fallout London mod. So go check it out if you're interested, if you have Fallout 4, and go support that team because they've worked ridiculously hard on this, and they're finally, you know, able to reap the fruits of their labor. But that's going to wrap up the news section of the show today. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to dive into my preview of Marvel Rivals. You're listening to No Credits Rolled. All right, we're back on No Credits Rolled. It's time to get into my preview of Marvel Rivals. Like I said, I was lucky enough to get in on the closed beta for this game. This is an upcoming hero shooter developed by NetEase Games. They're mostly free-to-play dev. The two games, I checked out their website, the two games that I have heard of from them are Naraka Blade Point, which is a battle royale fighter thing. It's pretty cool. It's pretty, I think it's kind of unique. I played it a little bit, and Once Human, which I have not checked out, but I know is sort of a recent viral sort of online game. I honestly don't know much about it, but I just know I'd heard of it, so I wanted to include it here. But I just wanted to say I was lucky enough to get this code because I used the credentials. Credentials is generous. I used the numbers we get for this show to sort of submit for part of their creator program. So I just wanted to thank all you listeners out there for allowing me to get this. Because I really, really wanted to play this game. I've been very, very excited for it ever since it was announced, especially once it was announced that it was coming to console. So yeah, I was able to play this game because of you guys, so I really appreciate that. I've been wanting a Marvel hero game in the hero shooter genre for a while, and I'm happy to say that for the most part, they've really stuck the landing here. The production value of this game is very, very high. They clearly put a lot of work into it, even in the beta build. I mean, it's one of those beta builds where they could have just released it straight up, and, it would have been, ready to go. But I'm so thoroughly impressed, and I'm so glad that this game seems like it's ready to ship and seems like it's good to go right now. I want to sort of go back and forth here as I talk about this review, sort of do a compliment, sort of do a criticism. We'll go back and forth. But starting off, the map design, right? The maps in this game are very, very impressive, and there's pre-match cutscenes that go along with it. Each map sort of has its own story, just like Overwatch, where you had, it's not as obvious in Overwatch, but there are little narratives depending on the map you're on, for the OG maps anyway. In Marvel Rivals, it's much more forward. There are pre-match cutscenes, there are characters on certain maps that you can interact with in the pre-game, like in the lobby where you're waiting before you can play. There are characters you can interact with there. And it all sort of serves the narrative of each match, which I was really impressed by because I didn't know that it was going to be this detailed. And they're going with the multiverse trend, which I know has kind of been beaten to death lately, and is, a lot of people are sick of that. But I think they're taking it in a direction that is pretty creative. They're mashing things up that I would not expect to be mashed up. Like the one that sticks out to me, I believe it's a mashup of Alchemex, like the 2099 future, and like a future Japan thing, Neo Tokyo kind of. I don't know. It's very reminiscent of the Overwatch map Neo Tokyo if you've played that. But these maps that are fused, there's one that's Asgard and something else as well. I should have written these down because there's only 2 maps in the beta, but each map is sort of an amalgamation of 2 different things. And that allows it to really flex their creative muscles because there's all kinds of little details. And if you're a fan of the comics, if you're a fan of the movies, if you're a fan of these characters, you're going to get a lot out of it. You're going to see a lot of things that, make you do the Leo meme where you point at the TV. And like I said, the one map that comes to mind is that future Tokyo. I was really blown away by it. I mean, in the lobby, when you pick your character, you can talk to this Spider-Man variant. She's a woman, Spider-Woman, I guess. Who's like a sorcerer, but the way they use sorcery, because they're spider people, is they like weave it as if they're weaving a web, but it's got the yellow magic stuff like Doctor Strange. Really neat. And the goal here is you're trying to stop her master, who's like the Great Weaver, who I maybe is supposed to be the equivalent of the Tilda Swinton character from Doctor Strange, the ancient one. But he's like a spider guy. It's very, very cool. I don't know. I love this stuff. But you could talk to the spider variant before the match, and she's like in the lobby with you walking around. And to go with that, there's a really cool intro to go with it. Like I've been mentioning, there's like a spider train that you get on, which seems excessive. I don't know how that would work in this world, but it's like a spider bullet train that you see pull up in the background of your character selection screen. And then there's a little quick thing that sort of transitions you from the select screen to the lobby. And like all this stuff, for me, I love the immersion in these hero shooters. That's why I love Overwatch so much. I love how these characters interact. I love the world. I love the maps and the detail in the maps. And Marvel Rivals is bringing that exact pedigree and they're taking obviously a lot of inspiration from Overwatch, and we'll get to that more in a second. They're bringing that level of immersion that I love, and it's really, I think, really gripping. And obviously, you've got the Marvel IP, so you're coming in with pre-existing knowledge, and that helps, right? Because in Overwatch, you have to watch, you have to Google a YouTube video to figure out the lore of all these characters. But in this game, if you know who Spider-Man is, then you can kind of figure out what he's talking about with these other characters. What else we got? That was pretty much it for the maps, right? Lots of detail. Each map, there's all kinds of Easter eggs you can find in the maps that I really enjoy. And I'm really excited to see what other maps come out when the game launches, because there's only 2 right now in this beta. I'm very excited to see what else they mash up in the future. A negative, the matches tend to feel very one-sided. You're either stomping or getting stomped, sometimes to like a comical degree. I've had matches where my entire team like literally never gets a kill, and meanwhile the enemy team, each player's dropping like 30, and we're just getting absolutely demolished. And I think part of that comes with people not knowing how these characters work. Like, I deliberately went and played each character for, to figure out how everything worked. And once I did that, the game made a lot more sense to me, and I was able to sort of think more, with tactics, because I knew what everybody did. But if you're going to go in for your first couple matches and you're just picking characters that it's going to take some adjusting. And there's a little bit of a learning curve there. Part of this one-sidedness was mitigated just a little bit by turning off crossplay, right? Because I didn't want to play with PC players, because there is a kill cam feature in this game, and it's very obvious when someone's on PC because they turn around so fast. But yeah, turning off crossplay helped a little bit. Some of the characters definitely seem like they'd play better on PC. There's like Spider-Man and Venom. They've got movement abilities that try to mimic the swinging mechanics of a Spider-Man game. And it's a little clunky. It's a little weird on console, but I think if you had the dexterity that comes with a mouse and keyboard, it'd be a lot easier to manage. But I'll cover more of the characters in just a second. Another positive, character dialogue and interactions. I already talked about this a little bit. I'm the sucker for this stuff, right? I love Overwatch. I already talked about that. The story is told in between these characters, right? There's one I just want to highlight. I think I have it later in the notes. Oh, yeah. Like I said, given there's Marvel, there's less onboarding necessary to know what these characters are about. Some of the dialogue I've heard really blew me away. The one example I have here is between Namor and Magneto. They both are talking about empires and the future of mutant kind, and the conversation ends with Magneto telling Namor that they've both been in wars before and that Namor should know better about whatever. And I took this as a reference because Namor fought in World War II, right? He was a member of the Defenders. Not everybody would know that, and maybe that's not what they were referencing, but like, if that's what they were talking about, I think that's a really cool pull. And there's all kinds of dialogue like that, right? To the point that like will overlap because of how much these characters are talking to each other. But I love it. And if you turn on subtitles, I think it's great. I think they nail all these characters and how they would talk and how they would act. I think they do a really good job with that and how they would interact with each other. And the kind of things that they pull for these characters to talk about, it shows that they really put effort into this and they didn't just phone it in, right? I mean, there's interactions between Venom and Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is like nervous to have Venom on the team, and Venom is like, well, we'll help you this time, little Spider. Like, I don't know. It might sound corny, but I love this stuff. I think it's great. And I think it really shows that they put a lot of thought in this, and that the people that made this game care about these characters as well, and care about how they want to present these characters in their game. But let's talk about gameplay, right? It took me long enough. I'm gushing about things that aren't the gameplay. So at first, the gameplay can be very hectic until you get a feel for a character that you like. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things going on all at once. There's a lot of AoE attacks, things like that. But I think once you get a character that you enjoy, or not enjoy, but at least know how to play, things start to fall into place and click for you, and you can kind of learn the ropes for the game in general. It, of course, really helps if you played Overwatch, because a lot of these characters are, I don't want to say copied from Overwatch, but we'll call it heavily inspired by Overwatch. There's characters like Moira, there's characters like, a lot of the tanks are very similar in Overwatch. I mean, their abilities are mixed and mashed, but the abilities function pretty similar. So, if you've played Overwatch for a little bit, it'll help you sort of know that language. I talk about that a lot on this show, of like knowing the language of a game or a universe. And I think that in this, it's the language is Overwatch, right? It's those kind of games. If you've played Overwatch or if you've played, I don't know, I never played Team Fortress, but I know it's a similar thing. It'll help you here because you'll know. The only thing, another complaint here, I didn't have this in the notes, but they have 3 classes, right? There's, let's see if I can even remember them. There's like strategist, which is your healer. There's vanguard, which is your tanks. And then there's a third one, which is your DPS. And I can't remember the name of it. It doesn't matter. Either way. And that's kind of what I want to complain about in this part is like, I wish they would have called them names that are a little bit easier to understand. And the icons in the game are not helpful. It's like a crossed fist. Like, I can't even remember them. Like, I wish it was a little bit easier to know because the game will suggest for you to pick a healer or, pick a healer or pick a hero that better makes your team composition, right? So they'll be like, pick a strategist. Well, I'm like, I don't know who's a strategist because you can't really tell. And the icons provide no help with that. I wish it was like a shield, a heal symbol, and like a fist. Overwatch does that, I think. I just think little UI changes like that would make it a little bit easier to understand who you're picking and what categories you're in. Of course, once you play the game for a little bit, you'll figure out who's who and what categories are what. I just think it would be a little bit easier and would kind of help that barrier to entry if they changed it to something more straightforward. I think they try to get a little too fancy with it. Unfortunately, some of the characters are just bad. They suck, and you shouldn't play them. The Hulk is really bad, which was a bummer because he was the first character I played because that was the one I was most excited for. I saw they had him working like D.Va in Overwatch where you would switch between Bruce Banner and the Hulk. I think that's a really cool way to do it. I think it's a cool concept. But Bruce Banner is useless. At least D.Va, if you're baby D.Va, you can like get headshots with her gun and it does a lot of damage. Bruce Banner is useless. And unfortunately, so is the Hulk. The Hulk doesn't really do a whole lot. And it doesn't really feel like you're getting that risk reward of like working up to getting the Hulk from Bruce Banner to then, run in there and beat everybody up. He just doesn't feel like that powerhouse that you'd want from being the Incredible Hulk. On the other side of that, Scarlet Witch, in my opinion, is totally broken. She's Moira from Overwatch in terms of having lock-on damage, except she doesn't have to heal. So all she does is lock onto you and kill you really fast. Also, her ultimate is she runs up in the air, and it's basically a D.Va ult, but like, I think it's worse than a D.Va ult because I just think the way it works, it just instantly deletes everybody. I don't think it does set damage. I think it just deletes characters. It's pretty easy to telegraph it when it's coming, and I do believe if you use shields, you can block it. But it's pretty busted, and it also destroys terrain, and we'll talk about terrain in a second. But yeah, there are balancing issues, and that's to be expected, right? When you're playing the beta of a hero shooter, they need to work out the kinks. Sure, they can playtest it, but no amount of playtesting is going to equate to the numbers they're getting now, allowing some of the public to get in. They've done a good job of making most of the characters easy to learn and hard to master, which is always sort of one of the hallmarks of this genre. Some of them have really, really cool abilities. I want to shout out Doctor Strange in general, in particular. He can make portals, right? Because he's Doctor Strange and that's his thing. But the portals, it's not like Symmetra in Overwatch where it's like 2 beacons you're putting down. He can put his portals down on like different angles or different heights, and you can shoot and see through them. It's like, it's a portal, right? But it's like in the MCU how the portals are, 1-to-1. It's hard to describe without seeing it, but it's really kind of mind-bending. And I'm imagining all the potential that could be had with it. Just yesterday I was playing, and I was able to place the portal above the point that we needed to capture, and the other side of the portal was like right outside of our spawn, so we could just sit and spawn, shoot through the portal, and then push in through the portal when we needed to. It's really, really neat, and I think that's the biggest power that I've seen that is like, wow, this is really neat, and it's kind of a miracle it doesn't just crash the game. So yeah, that one's pretty cool. There are other abilities, like Magneto is pretty cool. He's sort of like a Zarya from Overwatch mixed with a Sigma. He can put shields on other people and then absorb the metal, and you can hear the metal on his back. Like, there's really cool sound design with that, and then you can make like a sword out of it and do melee attacks. Really neat stuff. And I think another thing I want to praise about this game is the way they use the power or the abilities matches with the characters very well, and you feel like you're embodying these Marvel characters. I talk about Avengers way too much on this podcast, the Avengers game. But one of the reasons I like that game is because I feel like, despite its problems, when you're playing that game, you feel like you're playing whatever hero you're playing as. And I think this game does a pretty good job of that as well. You feel like you're playing as Magneto. You feel like you're Spider-Man. And I think that goes a long way, especially if you're wanting to get people to play this game and to feel invested. You want to kind of nail the feel of these characters, and I think they do a great job with that. So there's a terrain system in this game, which I was not expecting. There's like a cover, it's like Battlefield 4, right? Or like destructible environments is probably a better way to put it. Certain structures can be damaged and even totally destroyed before being reset. It sort of plays in, it's a mechanic that plays into the multiverse idea of things kind of always resetting and reforming themselves. And that's sort of how they justify it in game. But it's really cool in certain instances. Like it's good on Capture Point. There's one map in particular where the point is underneath this sort of bridge. So you can blow the bridge up and you have easier access but less cover. There's the Spider Tokyo future map is you're moving the payload, and there's like there's a section of the map where there's a bunch of different buildings, and you can like blow up the whole building basically. And it's really neat. And I think I talk about immersion a lot with this, and it goes back to that immersion a little bit too. Like I was playing as a Punisher, and I was in one of these buildings shooting down on a Namor, and he started throwing his tridents at me, and I backed up to try to get cover, but the tridents kept coming and was like punching through the wall on the floor to get to me, and it was really neat. And I'm curious to see sort of the 5D chess plays that come with this terrain system and how people can use it to their advantage if we get to the levels of like a Rainbow Six Siege where you're punching holes just big enough to shoot through or something like that. But like I said, it's like the OG Levolution of Battlefield 4. Not to the point of like you're bringing down skyscrapers, but I'm curious to see how they integrate this into new maps and how that ends up working out. Because I think it is cool, and it was definitely something I was not expecting in this game. You come into a hero shooter, you're expecting those mechanics that are already built in of coordinating healer, DPS, and tank, and then they add another system on top of it to make it stand out even more. I think this game is going to give Overwatch a run for its money. I think at this point, Overwatch is, I still love it. It's still one of my favorite games of all time, but I really think Blizzard has taken so many missteps with this game in the last couple years, particularly with the launch of Overwatch 2. I think they really fumbled the bag there, missing out on the single-player stuff. Moving it to 5v5 is very divisive, still very divisive. I think they might be bringing back 6v6. I don't know. I think Overwatch fans are looking for a alternative to a game they love, but is not the game that it once was. And I think Marvel Rivals has the potential to sort of be that game. And we're going to see when it comes out, but it's got all the bells and whistles that I was looking for. I had some complaints with balancing and some things like that. Also, the main menu is very mobile gamey looking. That could be a turnoff to some people, but I mean, NetEase is known for making these free-to-play games, so they've probably got their UI down to a science of how to get people to spend money. So far, there isn't too much monetization. There is for the beta, because it's a beta, so I don't know if this stuff will change at launch. It looks like there is a battle pass. You don't have to pay for it in the beta because it is included, but there's skins you can get, and I think there's only one kind of currency, so that's good. I've already been able to earn enough of the currency to get a couple of the skins. So, I don't know if that progression rate is going to keep up in the main game, but so far it doesn't seem too egregious. So, I'm very much looking forward to this game. But like I said, it turns out I had a lot more to say about this game than I thought. Overall, I'm extremely impressed. Aside from the couple minor complaints I'd say overall, this game really blew me away. And I really want to play more of it. My friends and I have been on a Civilization 6 kick lately. And if you've played Civ, you know that game sucks up a lot of your time and makes time go by fast. And, I wish I could clone myself. So one of me could be playing Marvel Rivals and one of me could be enjoying Civ 6 with the boys. It's a tough thing. It's tough being a gamer. I'll tell you what. That's a joke. But really excited for this game. Very, very excited for it to come out. I don't know if there's a release date for it yet. I neglected to look that up. But this beta runs a little bit longer, and I'm definitely going to try to get some more hours in while I can. And you're able to earn keys if you, there's a Twitch thing going on right now. If you watch certain streamers, you can earn a key. The keys are obviously going very fast. There is a limited supply. So you can go check that out and try to get in on it as well. And if once you're in, you can earn another key in the game for a friend. But again, they do go pretty quickly, so it's kind of tough to get those. But yeah, Overwatch should probably watch out. I do think this is something I forgot to mention in the main part of it, but having that Marvel IP, I think, is going to bring in a lot of people that maybe don't even play these kind of games that say, oh, a free Marvel game? I can be Iron Man? Sure, yeah, let's check it out. And that's something that I think it's a barrier that Overwatch sort of can't really overcome, right? I mean, now you're seeing it in every game, right? Magic the Gathering, Fortnite, every game you could think of, the IP craze is taking them all by storm. Of, they're not making things unique, they're bringing in other IPs that people know, and it's making them more money than they could ever imagine. And I am guilty of that. When Transformers came to Overwatch, I swiped the card. So, things like that, the IP game is always king. And I think having a whole Marvel hero shooter is going to help this game leaps and bounds. But yeah, whenever it does come out, highly recommend you check it out, and I can't wait to play more. But that's going to wrap up episode 14 of No Credits Rolled. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Remember, you can always email questions or comments to nocreditsrolled@gmail.com. You can call in and leave us a voicemail at 856-209-0713. We might just play it on the air. Google's threatening to turn that phone line off. So somebody call, right? Somebody call and keep the lights on over there at our phone lines. Not Joe. Joe, if you're listening, don't call. I want it to be someone different, someone I don't know. Someone out there that I don't know. Call 856-209-0713 and leave me a message. I double dog dare you. And we might play it on the air unless you say something really inflammatory. Make sure to subscribe to No Credits Rolled on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We will be there for you. And of course, if you're feeling generous and you've a couple pennies to spare, you can always check out the Patreon as well, where you can subscribe for as low as $3 a month and recommend what games I should be playing, what games I should be talking about. But that's all I got. I will see you all next time on No Credits Rolled.